kind of miss the more focused and a little less evilish Sylvanas. See... See... This gets into what I've said before. And I'm about to go on a WoW tangent here. In fact, screw it. Let's do that. Sylvanas has always done controversial shit ever since she became a Banshee. She's been doing that since Warcraft 3. As far as her doing these seemingly diabolical things, okay? It started with her ordering Varmathras to kill his own kind. Now, from her perspective, that was her not only putting Varmathras under her thumb, but it was kind of an act of vengeance on her part for getting back the Legion for what they and the Scourge did to the Sunwell and did the Quel'Thalas and all that. So there's one. But in retrospect, that was a terrible thing for her to order Varmathras to do, because Varmathras was like, wait a minute, hold up. We're not supposed to kill our own kind. And she's like, bitch, you better do it. So, and he did. Terrible thing number 2. If you go down, you can still see it nowadays if you teleport back in time. For the longest time, when you went down into the Undercity, when you went into the Apothecary Wing, what did you find? You found apothecaries experimenting not just on, alchemic things and whatnot. You saw them experimenting on humans. Innocent humans, might I add, that they just picked off from places. Not just experimenting on them for the sake of experimenting. They were experimenting to develop the new plague, or as we now know it, Blight. A weapon that she would utilize against the Scourge. At first, okay? Originally, this was supposed to be a weapon against the Scourge. At first, okay? That is a terrible thing. That is a very terrible thing to do, okay? And very controversial, like, Sylvanas is, people have viewed Sylvanas as this, heroic woman, and yet here she is okaying this terrible thing, So, basically doing exactly what the Scourge was doing. Just saying. She continued the development of the new plague, or the Blight. And then you saw what happened because of that.
Did you think we had forgotten? Did you think we had forgiven? Behold now, the terrible vengeance of the Forsaken! Sylvanas. Death to the Scourge! And death to the living!
Putris and Varmathras ended up stabbing her in the back and just about killing her, supposedly. Some people think that she was in on that, but I don't think so. I don't think she was in on that. But the thing is, she still pushed forward with the progression of that plague. And then when we saw it in action, here's the thing that kind of like tipped me off and a lot of people off to like, wait a minute. I thought the new plague was supposed to be a weapon against the Scourge. But as we saw at the Wrathgate, it didn't just hurt the Scourge. It hurt the Alliance, it hurt the Horde, it hurt the living. So this plague was a weapon not just against the undead, the Scourge undead, it was a weapon that could be utilized against the living. And you saw little hints and traces at that when you were doing the quest line in, all that leading up to that, when you're helping the Apothecary Society, build this plague and put the finest, the finishing touches on it. So that happened, and Sylvanas was put in timeout for that. The Thrall was like, woman? Really? Okay. So Thrall was not happy about that and put the Kor'kron in the Undercity, basically to be like, Forsaken, you are in timeout right now, and we are watching you like a hawk. Here's where the terribleness starts coming into play more publicly and outwardly. First thing she does, by order of Garrosh, the new war chief, Garrosh wanted a port in Lordaeron for the Horde. Where did he want it? He wanted it in Gilneas. So what does he order Sylvanas to do? He orders her to assault Gilneas. How does she do that? Well, first she just literally starts throwing her Forsaken at the damn wall until it'll come down. They're beaten back, and then she goes back with a second approach. This time she starts using not only Valkyr to raise new undead to bolster their forces, because if she doesn't, the Forsaken will eventually die out, not just from their existence, but from Garrosh ordering her to relentlessly assault the place. She also starts using the Blight, the new plague that Thrall was like, you can't use that anymore. And even Garrosh was like, you can't use that anymore. Well, she did, because she literally had no choice. And so now she is plaguing the crap out of Silverpine, okay? And attacking the city and, yes, killing innocents in there, okay? So people want to act like Teldrassil was the first time Sylvanas killed innocents. Oh, no. Oh, no. She's been killing innocents since vanilla, okay? So, anywho, she assaults Gilneas, you know, ends up resurrecting people from Gilneas that didn't, you know, turn to the Worgen curse, and threatens, you know, Gen with, you know, using Gen's daughter as bait and all of that. And then all that happens. Then, what's the next thing she does? She nukes the crap out of Hillsbrad. And not just nuke the crap out of Hillsbrad, but specifically South Shore, which was an Alliance stronghold. Nuked and blighted the crap out of that place. You want to believe there were some innocents there that didn't get killed? Yeah, right. Okay. Yeah, right. So, nukes the crap out of that place. Then pushes further into Arathi. You have her... shit. What is that place? Anderhall. Anderhall. The Horde and the Alliance are fighting over Anderhall. Specifically, the Forsaken and the Alliance are fighting in Anderhall over control of it. Inevitably, the Forsaken beat them back. But something happened that Sylvanas was not happy about. Kultira, a High Elf Death Knight, okay, who serves the Horde, serves the Forsaken. He made a pact with Thessarian, who was a brother-in-arms of his in the Ebon Blade, but is also a human. Made a pact with him that the Forsaken would back off and not attack each other, you know, and all that. He said, we'll back off, you know, whatever. Sylvanas found out about this and was not happy. So what did she do? She kidnaps the guy and chains him up in the Undercity, and we don't see him for a lifetime. What the hell? Okay. You might see it as disobedience. You know, like, Kultira, you were kind of disobeying her. Because she was like, I want Anderhall for the Forsaken. And he kind of made a pact with the enemy, saying, look, we'll back off if you back off. And, yeah. So, again, from her perspective, you're sleeping with the enemy here. And yet it was a terrible thing she did. Whatever. In Kata, that's where the terrible things she did kind of stopped. But again, it may seem justified because Garrosh ordered her to assault Gilneas and stamp out Alliance presence in Lordaeron, in Northern Lordaeron, and Arathi, and all that, and Hillsbrad. But her methods were terrible. And she chose to use those methods, even though Garrosh was like, I told you to take the place. I didn't tell you to raise undead and use the plague. And she was like, well, what do you want me to do? So, again, terrible things, but from her perspective, it was the only way. If you look at, after the events of Mist of Pandaria into war crimes, she convinced Verisa, her sister, to poison Garrosh. And then after that, Verisa agreed to live with her in the Undercity. Well, what Verisa didn't know is that Sylvanas was planning to kill her sister and raise her into undeath. Okay? That's the part Verisa didn't know about. So Sylvanas was planning to kill her own sister so Sylvanas didn't have to live alone in the Undercity. What the hell? In her mind, though, this is the only way to get her family back, because her people would never accept someone living or alive, living in the Undercity, the city of the undead, okay? So in her mind, the only way to make this right is kill her and then raise her into undeath, okay? She had the power to do so because she had the Valkyrie. So there's that. That is a terrible thing. What the hell? You know? What the hell? It's your sister. Then in Legion, you had her going on a personal mission to capture Aegir so that she could literally control the Valkyrie so she could raise more Forsaken. Again, a terrible fate to put on somebody, raising them into undeath against their will. But, again, from her perspective, it is to survive because she's a damn soul, because her soul will never have rest in death. This is the only way that she can ensure that she escapes not going to WoW hell, basically, okay? Again, terrible, but there's a reason. Now you jump into the end of Legion. She, Illyria, and Verisa meet up in Quel'Thalas, and they ride out to the Windrunner Spire, okay? Windrunner Spire. They meet up, they're talking, they get in arguments, and it is revealed at the end that Sylvanas was about to assassinate the two of them. She was very close to signaling her Dark Rangers and order them to assassinate Verisa and Illyria. Why? We don't really know, but it probably could be the same reason that she wanted to raise Verisa into undeath just so she could have her family back. But her final words in that comic were, in the end, they all will serve. So now Sylvanas is starting to go into the mentality of horde dominance. Okay? She wants the horde to dominate. Because if the horde, in her mind, I guarantee you this is in her mind, okay? This is her mindset. The Alliance are the biggest threat to her. You know, a lot of people are like, well, she's against life and stuff like that. And I'm like, it's not life. I don't think it's life she's against. It's she wants to survive. The Alliance is the biggest threat to her. If she removes the threat in her mind, this is how she guarantees her survival. If she can't have Aegir and control the Valkyrie, if she can't have the Undercity or anything like that, if she can't have her family, if she can't have any of this, because Verisa denying her in war crimes and betraying her in war crimes broke her heart, okay? That broke her heart, and she said she told herself she would never be betrayed like that again. To avoid the betrayal, to avoid the Alliance, which is the biggest threat to her, possibly taking away her very survival, to avoid all of that in her mind, she has to not only have the horde dominate, which is the thing she controls. She not only has to have the horde dominate the whole of Azeroth, she has to eliminate anything and everything that would stand in her way, because this is the only way she will survive. I mean, if you really want to think about it, guys, this foreshadowing of, if you want to, or look at some foreshadowing of you know, why is she like this, you know, with Teldris and everything. Gosh, she's been telling us this since Warcraft 3 with her very words, and I quote,
"We shall be known as the Forsaken. We will find our own path in this world, Dread Lord, and slaughter anyone who stands in our way."
That mentality has been there. It's just now the mentality is coming to fruition, albeit an extreme fruition. Teldrassil was probably the biggest step she has taken as far as the terribleness that she commits. But in her mind, whether it's innocent blood she has to spill, whether it's Alliance blood she has to spill, or even her own people, as indicated in Before the Storm, those Forsaken that tried to abandon ship and leave her rule and whatnot, she killed them. It doesn't matter who it is. to ensure her survival so that she does not meet that terrible fate that none of these other faction leaders will ever have to face. More than likely, to avoid that fate, she will slaughter anyone that gets in her way. And that's why I've been saying it all along. 1, it's about perspective, and 2, Sylvanas has been doing terrible things from the beginning.